There was a time when I enjoyed watching Star Wars. The setting felt massive with the original trilogy plot about an ever-expanding empire of their military and being on different planets, and the locations the heroes had to travel to escape them. It felt like a large setting because of how interesting the story and the characters were. Then the prequels came out. I don't know the specifics of the story, only what people know from the memes it created, which shows how good it was. What I mainly remember and enjoyed the most were the big dumb battles, with the droids and the clones. This was mainly concentrated on the cartoon show The Clone Wars, where we focused on these battles and the soldiers involved in them. Seeing clones charging towards the droids in a future setting, but despite being goofy, it just had good character moments about battle brothers. However, that enjoyment of Star Wars has slowly diminished over the years. Until now, I don't even watch it anymore. This was due to a lot of straws being bent, how they handled the franchise when Disney made the purchase. The new trilogy, meant to bring back Star Wars popularity and magic from back of its release, just became a laughingstock, with everyone pointing fingers at it for how not to handle the franchise. Instead of coming up with something new for the story, they just repeat the same story as before, but with a new coat of paint. If that doesn't work, it only causes the audience to hate it. Just bring back the things that they enjoy, even if it doesn't make any sense. Especially when it comes to the characters, either completely butchering them or having no clue about their direction. They did make attempts to create something new with the release of The Mandalorian, but that infectious cancer of constantly bringing back characters and not knowing what to do was brought into this show, with new seasons being released, not even the peak of a mouse being talked about. There are occasions when they make something that's good and interesting to watch, but those are incredibly rare to occur. Not only that, I haven't been enjoying the lore of Star Wars, how the creation of the clones seem more as slaves for the Republic, how an empire that was made within 20 years lasted those said years is a bit ridiculous. Not getting enough lore around the dark side of the Force, with many of those who join end up being good. How the Melkorians suck as explanation for how they're able to lift rocks. So I moved on from Star Wars to other mediums like Game of Thrones. Not a great shows, not because it's bad, far from that, but mainly because the books take longer than they should since the last book was released in 2011, with the author more interested in his other projects than finishing the books. Eventually, after a while, I found a franchise that managed to satisfy what I've been looking for, which is Warhammer 40k, our dark future setting, set in a year in the first century, where humanity has an empire across the Milky Way and is at a constant war with aliens, dark worshippers, and themselves. All the technology and quality of life has regressed, with the only thing holding the fractured Imperium is the worship of the God Emperor of mankind. What makes this setting interesting is how incredibly detailed the universe is, with each faction and their sub-faction having a rich history of who they are and how they came to be, especially how visually captivating the factions are based on their design alone. It just makes me want to learn more about them. Warhammer does offer ways to do so by the large library they have with audiobooks to enrich the experience. Sure, there are no movies and barely any shows to see the universe visually, but this just allows the writers to go more in depth with the scale. While Star Wars will start to create one likable character or just bring back whatever obscure one people saw in the background, Warhammer doesn't have any problems since they have so many characters for each faction, with every one of them being interesting, leading people to want to know more about them, what they're up to in this universe. Warhammer doesn't try too hard to cater towards you, or force a character to do something to be more inclusive. There's a faction for just about anybody. Another thing that can't be emphasized enough is one of the problems with Star Wars is how limited the universe is, despite being in the galaxy, because they need to include things like stormtroopers, Jedis, and Darth Vader of some type to make it feel like Star Wars. They started to create genres for this universe like a heist movie, but we need to include things like Han Solo and then Lando to make it feel like it belongs in this setting. Warhammer doesn't struggle with this, it just has a strong setting with characters that reflect this, and this gives tools for writers to create different genres like crime, horror, military, exploration, and comedy, genres that Star Wars wishes it could do. The specific things that you enjoy from Star Wars can be found here. I enjoy the military side with these soldiers firing laser guns. Well, you have the Astra Militarum with a variety of modern and World War II mixed in. You enjoy the armor, but want to see it actually be useful, not just tissue paper. You have the genetically enhanced super soldiers called Space Marines, or how I like to call them, Space Marines, with a variety of unique suits in their regiment. Is there equivalent to a force in this universe? Yes, they're called Psychers. It has a better explanation than the Force users in Star Wars, where they tap into the warp to use many different abilities like Smite, which shoots lightning. However, not having a strong will to control it and by tapping too much from the warp will allow demons to rip them apart, or just turn into a chaos spawn. You enjoy the clones, but want to see a faction that gives up Brotherhood and Kinsmen? Well, there's the League of Votan. Enjoy seeing and controlling an army of soulless robots? There's the Necrons. What about the villains in this universe, the Dark Force? Now, people will tell you that everyone is evil in this universe, and nobody is good, For the most part, it's correct. But if I had to point fingers, it would be the Chaos Gods and their followers. Each of the gods is unique from the others, with its ambition, design, and traits. Star Wars would say joining the Sith will unlock secret evil powers like immortality or something completely vague to want to join their side. Where the only thing that you get is anger fuser power, wear black, and have a red lightsaber. However, in contrast, Warhammer explains why the Chaos Gods are dangerous. Sure, they don't have the secret behind them, but you understand who they are and why people want to follow them. Take a look at Nurgle, the god of disease, pestilence, and strife. When you look at them all mutant and disgusting, why would people want to follow him? That's because Nurgle loves his followers and will take away all the pain and suffering from them to the point that they no longer feel their bodies running. Instead, their feelings are replaced with comfort and goodness, causing them to want to spread their disease to other people to join the state of happiness. The design of the Chaos Worshipper and demons are just incredible. When seeing them, you can visually tell they're evil, not just because they have a red lightsaber or they wear a black cloak, but how mutated and alien they look. Now, I'll be lying to you if Warhammer didn't have any problems. It does quite a bit. For starters, despite the setting being in the galaxy, a lot of the attention is on the human faction, specifically the Space Marines, receiving more books and love than any other Xenos. The company in GW fumbles the lore quite often, how their new faction, the Inari trilogy, never got to be finished due to its poor writing, and the Leagues of Wotan hasn't received any books despite being a year old. Another problem is the setting. Now, older fans will tell you the setting has gotten less grim and dark over the decades. That's due to certain decisions being made, one of them being back reboot Gilliman, the father/Primarch of the Ultramarines. In his return, he brought hope to the galaxy of diplomacy, as well as innovation, since he's all about logistics. However, this contradicts Warhammer's main selling factor, which is forget innovation and peace, since it's all about war. Not to say the setting has gotten any less grim dark, it still is, or he's a bad character. He's one of the best in the lore, but being a Primarch, he takes away a lot of the attention from the other characters, since who wants to know what an Ultramarine is doing if you can read what his father is doing? There are more issues, but it comes down to people's perspective about it, and the characters involved in it. That's one thing I'll say is that I enjoy the community, where people will defend the actions of their faction and the characters for what they did was justified. It's just fun to hear about. Despite acknowledging the problems it has, they feel a lot more tolerable compared to Star Wars, since the franchise has decades of existence, struggles to tell an existing universe, and with Disney now calling the shots, any hope for a coherent universe is down the toilet. When you look at 40K, they managed to build themselves a massive universe that is incredibly rich in lore and feels huge, while Star Wars just fumbles a lot back during the prequel times. I've been a fan of the franchise for a decade, but despite the time I invested in it, I know more and remember about Warhammer lore in the few years that I've been with compared to Star Wars, because that's how interesting it is. It's clear Star Wars will continue down the train wreck with the decision to continue Rey's story, an unpopular character that sacrificed a lot for her story to exist. Instead of being frustrated with the new movies and shows being released every week, I moved on. And I feel like a lot of the other fans did the same thing, shifting to Warhammer 40K. Because why would people want to go back to Star Wars? Because of nostalgia? Seeing things you like be ruined? Why not switch to a franchise that offers the same experience but better? Thanks for watching, and bye.